Welcome back to the 2-Minute Warning, episode 476. Today I'm looking at the Denver Broncos and what I think we can expect of them in 2021 for this upcoming season. But before getting to that topic, question for those of you viewing, comment down below who is your all-time favorite Denver Bronco player in franchise history. Like I said, comment down below and I will reveal my answer at the end. But getting into the Denver Broncos, this past year, kind of a disappointing year for the Denver Broncos. There wasn't huge expectations for them to be a Super Bowl contender or make a deep playoff run, but still below 500 is not a great, finish for any team in the NFL. No matter your expectations, it's not something you want to look forward to. However, a lot of injuries held them back last year. COVID was kind of a big problem for them to deal with, especially having a young quarterback. And like I said, the injuries were all around. Noah Fant got banged up. Courtland Sutton didn't play. The running back situation was weird, figuring out Phillip Lindsay or Melvin Gordon. And then on defense, Von Miller was banged up. It just wasn't a good start for the Broncos in general, let alone having to play a whole season without your, top talented guys. You can't expect a lot out of any team that's missing their, five best players around there. So overall, looking at a new season, I do think even just a healthy team, this Broncos team will be a lot better than they were last year. And I truly think the Denver Broncos are probably one of the more underrated teams in the NFL right now for sure. They've made some underrated moves in NFL free agency that I feel like that just doesn't get talked about enough. Them figuring out how to re-sign both Justin Simmons and Von Miller is big moves in itself, but then adding on to that secondary with Ronald Darby from Washington, and then they got Kyle Fuller from the Bears after they released him. That is a dangerous secondary. I don't know if they'll be able to get Kareem Jackson back, one of their top safeties, but overall, like I said, between Ronald Darby, Kyle Fuller, and Justin Simmons coming back along with PJ Locke, that is a great secondary, and like I said, definitely an underrated one in the NFL. I don't think it's talked about enough, Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby. They're not number one corners, but they're definitely above average guys that will definitely be able to lock down some receivers. And then, of course, Justin Simmons, one of the top safeties in the NFL for sure. And then on the pass rush of the defense, you got Von Miller and Von Miller Jr. and Bradley Chubb. Great pass rushers in itself. You don't even need the rest of the defensive line when you got two of those guys being healthy. Looking at the offense, I already mentioned the injuries they had last year. Getting Courtland Sutton back, who is probably one of the more underrated receivers in the NFL. And I know I'm saying that a lot about this team, but in general, I do think they are under the radar. Courtland Sutton, Noah Fant, and their rookie this past year, Jerry Jeudy, wasn't the absolute stud, the number one receiver out of his draft class that they were hoping to be, but I do think he's still young. He will get a healthy system, a healthy team around him, and be used to the system. And I think he will take a big step forward. So looking at that, you got two great wideouts and Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, and then Noah Fant in the tight end position. That will be a great safety blanket, great red zone target for Drew Lock after he gets the system down packed. Looking at the offensive line, I would say probably 2 weeks ago, the Denver Broncos might have had the best offensive line in their division just because we saw the Raiders' offensive line just fall apart, trading away Rodney Hudson. The Chargers didn't make a move yet on Corey Linsley, and the Chiefs just released Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. So about 2 weeks ago, this was probably easily the best offensive line in the division, and I still think they're stout all around, but the Chargers have addressed Corey Linsley. They got a good center to build up that interior line. The Chiefs signed Joe Thuney and Kyle Long, so the Raiders are still kind of messed up. They signed a couple guys back, brought back some veterans and Richie Incognito, but it's an absolute scrap offensive line throughout the division. Broncos are still stout, but they are not the most dominant. They might become it, but as of right now, I don't think there's a clear winner at offensive line in the division. But getting Juwan James back and having Garrett Bowles be healthy as well, I think those are two great tackles that, when healthy, can definitely help out the pass rush and the protection and help out Drew Lock get some wins. However, no matter how great I think it is with the healthy receiving core, with the healthy defense, and now that Phillip Lindsay is gone and we understand that Melvin Gordon is going to be the primary back, everything will fall on the shoulders of Drew Lock. I've made this comparison before. The Giants, they're in a win-now situation. However, everything is on the shoulders of Daniel Jones. Same thing with the Broncos. They have the missing pieces around their quarterback, but is their quarterback the missing piece in itself? We will have to see. They do have the number 9th overall pick. No matter what they want to do with that pick, whether it be getting Rashawn Slater, who could play any position on the offensive line, and giving Drew Lock an absolute unit of a offensive line, that would be a good move, or whether it be drafting Devontae Smith, and now you have one of the best receiving cores in the NFL between Smith, Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Noah Fant, or, consider the fact of replacing Drew Lock. I mean, Trey Lance, there's a good chance he will be around. He's a big risk. He's a big wild card. But the upside on Trey Lance is enormous. Or there's other guys out there, Justin Fields, if somehow, some way, Zach Wilson falls all the way down to number 9. I doubt he does. Either way, number 9, you have a lot of options. You can even go defense. Like I said, you have a great secondary. Ronald Darby, Justin Simmons, and Kyle Fuller. Look at Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley and create the best secondary in the NFL. I truly think having the number 9 overall pick can really do justice to the Broncos, and they can really electrify their team with just one more stud player, no matter what it be, a weapon on offense, a weapon on defense, or protection on the offensive line, or even replacing Drew Lock. Just make sure you capitalize off of it. I think the Denver Broncos are a very underrated team. Don't think anyone's really looking at them to be a serious threat. However, they do have the star power to do it. But everything is going to fall on Drew Lock, like I said, and I don't know if he's the guy. We will see. Like I said, he will have Vic Fangio now. He's been having to deal with 2 different offensives over his past 2 years. He had to deal with COVID. He had to deal with receivers being injured. So maybe these 2 odd years under his belt and his 2 odd years of experience, he will finally take a jump. He has the raw skill to do it, but can he do it? We will have to see. It's up to the Denver Broncos. Are they going to, keep faith in Drew Lock and see if he can take them all the way? Or are they going to move off of him and go with a Trey Lance or Justin Fields or even a Mac Jones? We will have to see. A quarterback battle would be interesting in the Denver Broncos between Drew Lock and Trey Lance. And to be honest, I both think they have raw skill, but both are risky plays just because we don't know what Trey Lance will be and we don't know what Drew Lock is. It will be interesting. Vic Fangio is a great coach. He's very well-rounded, pretty defensive-minded, but with the defense they have, it definitely makes sense between, like I already said, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, hopefully Kareem Jackson, we will see, but also Kyle Fuller, Ronald Darby, and Justin Simmons. This defense is very dangerous. I definitely think the Broncos are an underrated team, but just from what I have seen, Drew Lock will not take this team to the playoffs in this very year. I think they have the potential to, but being in a tough division where Mahomes and the Chiefs are almost a dynasty, I think Chargers and Justin Herbert are becoming just as good as, is becoming one of the better teams in the AFC for sure. I don't think Drew Lock is on par with them just yet. He has the potential to be, but to me, they're the 3rd best team in the AFC West alone. I really like the Chiefs. Everyone does. Everyone thinks they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and I really like what the Chargers are putting together. And I think the Broncos could steal a game or 2 from each of those teams and be a possible wild card team. But as of right now, I just don't know enough about Drew Lock and whether or not they're either going to stick with him or what they're going to do with the number 9 pick. That will determine a lot. There's a lot of NFL offseason left. The NFL draft hasn't even started. So the Denver Broncos could surprise us all and make a huge move, make a huge trade. I mean, there's rumors Deshaun Watson wants to play for Denver. If he goes there, that is probably now the toughest division of football between Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, and then the Raiders there. But everything and anything is really possible for this Denver Broncos team. They have the offseason to capitalize off what they are working with their draft capital and with their free agent cap space. We just have to see, will they? I like them, and I think they're an underrated team, but as of right now, I don't have them making the playoffs just because I don't know what Drew Lock is, and even if he's going to be the starting guy next year. Until that's decided, I will not know. As of right now, though, I would say they will miss the playoffs and at best have a decent chance at making a wild card spot, but I got to see who's playing quarterback. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think they'll make the playoffs? Do you think they'll stick with Drew Lock? Do you think they'll draft a QB? So on and so forth. What do you think the Denver Broncos will do for the rest of the offseason? And of course, comment down below your favorite Denver Broncos player in franchise history. For me, I'm a huge Skip and Shannon fan. I'm Undisputed. I love Shannon Sharp, and I loved him. I didn't watch him play in Denver by any means, but just hearing him talk in Undisputed, he's easily my favorite Denver Broncos player. Thanks for watching, guys. 2 in the morning.